When the pandemic hit, the traditional way that services are delivered changed overnight, and along with that, so did the strategies that drive charging and monetization. Consumers' and businesses' needs are changing rapidly, resulting in a greater requirement for service agility with integrated charging. Now, to tell us more, I would like to welcome Tim Smith, VP of Nokia Europe, Elmar Grasser, CTO of Sunrise UPC, and Mark Newman, Chief Analyst with the TM Forum. Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us on the programme today. Now, in the past few months, it's been a very challenging time for many countries across the world, but the telecoms industry has stood up rather well. What has changed in your service delivery strategy? Has your vision changed with regards to the launch of new services? And coupled with that, how are they actually monetized?
Yes, before I step into this, I would like to add one important thing on. I think in general, the awareness of how important communication has increased. I think in Switzerland, due to the high quality level that we have quite a situation where people take it as granted, and I think that that crisis showed that without telecommunication in such a crisis situation, we would be really in a difficult situation. And you probably know that in Switzerland we have quite some headwinds against the 5G rollout because of health concerns. And I think in this context where people saw how important collaboration is, and that in some networks the capacity was not there when it was required, and we did see on other networks implications for customers not being able to communicate. I think that created a new awareness that it's not just there. You need to do something for it, and if it's not there, then you have a big problem. So I think in that context, it changed something. Now, to come to your question, whether we changed our product portfolio dramatically or our way to selling our products and monetizing our network capacity, not dramatically, I would say. Certainly there has been, during the lockdown, a clear move to even more on online sales. That is absolutely clear. But from the product portfolio, especially in the business area, we have our so-called unlimited workplace product, which gives enterprise, but even very small enterprise and even private customers, the possibility to use collaboration tools from the cloud as a service from us. And that has been in combination, with a very good network and a perfect coverage across the country has given us a big boost. I mean, our number of customers have increased in the last quarter dramatically, and we took again market share.
Thank you. And Tim, what else are you seeing from elsewhere in Europe with regards to possible changes in service delivery strategies from European telcos?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So Elmar referenced collaboration, and in answer to your question, we're seeing a far greater drive across Europe for service providers collaborating with third parties. If you look at the nature of services that we as an industry have taken to market historically, we sell voice and we sell data, and the differentiation between what one provider offers to the next is very, very limited. And that's why I think we've seen a lot of the traditional services become very, very commoditized. And Elmar references collaboration. And I think we're seeing a much greater drive, a much greater need to collaborate with third-party companies, with third-party vendors, to incorporate and supplement their assets, their functions, their capabilities with the capabilities and functions of the service providers to then provide new differentiated services to both residential and enterprise customers. So I think, when Elmar talks about collaboration, he's absolutely correct, and we're seeing that need, that drive across Europe. So with regards to that change in vision on service provision, it's certainly around that need and that desire to collaborate, to differentiate.
Thanks. And Mark, as we've already mentioned, these services not only do have to be quality and assured, but they've got to be monetized.
Yeah, and monetization has always been a favorite topic of the industry. But I think operators now realize that has to start with customer experience, and you monetize through delivering great customer experience. I think to the point about new services, I actually think that that in responding to the pandemic, employers have been very forgiving of issues that their staff might have had about connectivity at home, mobile connectivity, fixed connectivity. Similarly, individuals have been quite forgiving. I think hopefully, as we move out of lockdown and back to some sort of normality, I think it's going to change, and I think we're going to see an increased demand for converged services across fixed and mobile. I think when it comes to home environments, people want to back up resilience. I think there's a huge opportunity now for telcos who can predict the future requirements of people who have a sort of a hybrid work at home, work in the office sometimes type experiences, using 5G to provide backup. I think we're at a stage now where when we hopefully come out of the lockdown, the pandemic, we will see new innovative propositions across fixed, mobile, 5G, broadband, etc., etc. And so I think, great opportunity now for those telcos who can work out what the future is going to look like, what the new normal will be.
And Tim, how do you think the pandemic has changed the future of the telecoms industry? Do you think it's going to change the way that businesses view their communications services? And related to that, what will happen if a telco can't rapidly adapt to changing subscriber behavior?
Yeah, I think what it's driven is the reaffirmation that communications and connectivity is absolutely fundamental to pretty much every industry sector out there. So it's a real reinforcement there, but it's also a reinforcement of the fact that all companies, but telecommunication companies, need to be far more outside in. They need to be able to respond to and deliver. They need to be able to respond to a change in market circumstances, a change in market requirements, and deliver a service against that. So they need to be driven outside in, as opposed to traditionally we've been quite constrained by the services that we can provide, by the infrastructure capabilities that we've got. We've been quite inside out. So I think really what this has reinforced is the need to be able to identify a change in market circumstances and be agile enough to respond to that and launch services and capabilities against that. And I think that's where some of the web scale, some of the over the top providers have been very successful. And I think that we can learn from that and become far more market driven in the services that we offer to market.
Elmar, you spoke earlier about how telecoms is being perceived differently as a result of the pandemic. I wonder if you could pick up on some of the themes that Tim's mentioned there, this idea of inside out, outside in, and being able to react more rapidly to the real changing needs of customers.
I think it's extremely important, and it's an investment in the future on one hand. So this one is just, it sounds a bit banal, but it's extremely important, and it requires investment. And we have shown that this investment pays out, because Sunrise UPC has been very successful. If you look at how our stock price developed, it's a real nice success story, because people recognized good service and good network quality matters. That's one point. And then comes all the other things on top. I think it's very difficult to be successful if you don't fulfill that first point. So the second point of being able to react fast in delivering services to the customers, that is certainly extremely important. We reacted, for example, by giving higher unlimited or giving unlimited volumes to those mobile customers that did not have unlimited volumes in the pandemic time when the first lockdown came down, and could immediately implement these kind of things towards our customers. And that was very much appreciated by the customers. Certainly when we then said, okay, now first lockdown is over on the fixed and on the mobile side, we said, okay, now if you want these advanced services, please, you need to pay something for it. And you need to have all the tools behind to react fast, to have the interconnection with the customer, to give him the possibility to choose and so on. So all of those are extremely important things to be flexible on, and we cope with it very well. And the customer, I think they saw that as very fair examples on how we reacted fast on their needs.
Thank you. And Mark, do you think service providers really are now accelerating transformation strategies to match changing subscriber behavior, or might we see this in the longer term picture as a bit of a blip that, you know, it accelerates, but then we return to old ways?
So that, I think, is a challenge, knowing, are we going back to where we were before? And I think things we can be sure about are that some of the changes that were already happening become accelerated. And so from a company, a homework balance perspective, we're seeing greater flexibility. That's going to continue apace. So I think telcos will need to, over a period of time, adapt and cater for those people who are working from different locations. They want to be flexible. From a telco perspective, traffic flows have always been pretty predictable until now, and clearly the pandemic changed that. We're going to go back to more predictability, but I would say we won't go back to the same predictability. So I think there is some embedded requirement for greater flexibility and elasticity and scalability that will be required across a whole range of different telco functions.
Now, the lines between consumers and enterprises are blurring as more people are working from home. And we've spoken about how enterprise and consumer behavior has changed in the past year. But has there been an impact on how services are charged? Has this past year caused a rethink of traditional charging and monetization? Tim, is there a need for increased service agility with integrated charging?
I think there is. I think that you're right in that, you know, the expectation of what it is we're delivering and how we charge for that has changed. So if we take mobile gaming, for example, we're seeing enormous uptake in mobile gaming across Europe. It might make more sense to charge for a mobile gaming service or those capabilities by the game or by gaming hour, as opposed to charge for it by megabit. So if you look at how we've charged traditionally, it's been charging voice by minutes and charging data by megabit. You know, maybe it would make more sense to be able to charge for the actual service that we're running over the top of that data, as opposed for charging just for the data. And this, we think, will really help the service providers monetize the capabilities that they're driving in the market. It will help monetize 5G. So don't just charge for 5G, but charge for the services that you're running over the top of 5G.
And Elmar, are you now looking at alternative service usage models?
Well, first of all, I would agree what you just said. I mean, this is extremely important. You need to have the flexibility, not just charging for volumes and for connectivity, but for services as well. And we are exactly doing that. Then additionally, there comes the aspect that the service development needs to be much more flexible. So it needs to be based on virtualized functions so that you're faster in bringing new services towards the customer, which we have already done with our unlimited mobile workplace. We have you need to have capabilities with partners to do the charging in the right way, because when you have partners involved, you need to be able to do that. You need real time for for these new kind of services, and we have already implemented these capabilities with, by the way, with the Nokia real-time charging platform and with the Nokia service or order management system, which gives us the flexibility to do all these things. Not just monetizing connectivity, but also monetizing services and partners and billing partners, billing relationships with partners.
And Mark, are we seeing differences to how services are being charged? Are we seeing an increased focus on time to market or time to revenue, for example?
I think we're seeing two different things. So I think from a connectivity side, we're seeing a transition towards software as a service ication of connectivity pricing, the move towards flat rate, unlimited, pseudo unlimited. That trend's going to continue apace, I think, across fixed and mobile. The ultimate customer experience in terms of connectivity is not worrying about hidden charges. And that's also consistent with what we're seeing from the OTT side, Netflix type pricing, Spotify type pricing. On the other hand, we're also seeing that customers are prepared to pay for one-off events. So maybe the best way to talk about this is if we think about the video space, you may well have a Netflix subscription, but you're prepared to spend €5.99 to watch a new movie. You're prepared to fork out 10 euros to see a football match. So I think there's full transparency in that. So it's a hybrid of all bundled in a flat rate pricing plus the ability to offer one-off purchases or maybe even occasional monthly purchase where it has to be done in real time with full transparency, with full delivery at the time of purchase.
I've got one more question I'd like to ask each of you, and Elmar, I'd like to start with you. For a long time now, the telecoms industry has been speaking about the need for network agility through increased programmability. But how can we be sure that we'll all be ready next time? Because unfortunately, there's a high probability that we may face reoccurrences or other unexpected consequences. How can we be assured that we're going to be ready for these?
Well, first, I would say we were not unprepared for the COVID situation. We have been able to immediately react, giving our employees with the collaboration tools, and on the other hand, providing enough capacity for our customers with a super reliable network so that they could do the same. If they had collaboration tools, and if they didn't have, then we were able to help them even in implementing fast the capability for doing collaboration tools. So certainly there is never enough agility, and we need to further improve there. I mean, I think for the most important things we are there, which is super reliable connectivity, super good coverage across the country, and the services on top of it with virtualized functions is also something that we are on the way of implementing, and have the exact right charging capabilities of doing this flexible and the digital interfaces towards the customer that he can order it kind of in real time.
Thank you. And Mark, any additional advice for telcos? Is increased programmability a key part of the solution?
I think we're already moving towards automating operations across the whole telco business. So I think the pace of digitization is accelerating. It's putting the industry in better shape. The next time we do have an event such as what we've lived through the last 9 to 10 months. The one point that I will make is that I do think individuals as well as enterprise are going to want resiliency and redundancy and backup, and that's where I think there is opportunity. And we all have fixed and mobile lines coming into our homes. How much interchangeability do we have of how we use those fixed and mobile lines? And we need to have that resiliency and backup because, as we've said already, our working lives, our social lives, our family lives depend upon it.
Indeed. Thanks, Mark. And Tim, final comments from you on the preparedness of telcos and any advice you can give them as to what may come next?
I think the industry was well prepared. I think it managed very, very well. And a large part of that, I think, is through increased software-defined networks and increased virtualizations of those functions. And the more and more we move that way, the more and more we move towards software-defined networking and virtualized network functions and then container functions. I think that enables us really to increase the level of automation. If we we talked a bit about the quality of service earlier today. I think that as we move progressively towards virtualizing functions, then our ability to assure those functions and automate that assurance is going to increase more and more and more, and that will drive a greater level of quality of service. If you look at how assurance worked before, it was a very manual intervention. When your assurance engine saw that you weren't meeting your quality of service, it would send an alarm or it would send a trigger, and then someone would have to go and make a parameter change or a setting change in the network. As you virtualize that network, you can now introduce closed loop automation between your assurance engine and your fulfillment engines or your delivery engines, and you can really automate that whole quality of service. And I think that we managed well because we were on that journey, and I think the more and more we go down that journey, the more we can automate those processes through closed loop automation, and I think that will increase our ability to respond to changes in requirements.
Thank you, Tim. Well, that is all the time we have. We'll have to leave it there. Elmar, Tim and Mark, thank you all very much indeed for participating today. Do look out for the other discussion programs in this series, but for now, thank you very much for watching and goodbye.